If this story touches your heart like it touched mine, please hit that like button and subscribe. Every story deserves to be heard. Now, let's begin. The Grand Plaza Hotel stood as a testament to old-world luxury amidst the vibrant chaos of downtown San Francisco. Its marble floors gleamed under the soft light of crystal chandeliers, a mirror to the opulence that defined the establishment. Jessica Martinez adjusted her name tag, a ritual she had perfected over her 15 years in the hospitality industry. As the front desk manager, she prided herself on her ability to handle anything that came her way. But tonight, she would face a challenge that no amount of training could have prepared her for. The lobby bustled with activity. Business executives tapped away at laptops, tourists admired the ornate architecture, and hotel staff moved with practiced efficiency. Jessica loved the rhythm of it all. There was something gratifying about maintaining order in such a dynamic environment. "Miss Martinez," came a voice from her left. Jessica turned to find Thomas, one of the junior staff members, standing hesitantly by her desk. His usually cheerful demeanor was replaced with visible anxiety. "What's the matter, Thomas?" Jessica asked, her tone warm but professional. "There's a situation in the executive lounge," he said, fidgeting with the hem of his uniform. "Some of the guests are upset." Jessica straightened her blazer, her mind already running through potential scenarios. The executive lounge was a sanctuary for the hotel's most exclusive clientele, a place where any disruption could have significant repercussions. "What kind of situation?" she pressed. "There's a guest whose appearance is making others uncomfortable. A few patrons have even threatened to leave." Jessica's brow furrowed. "Appearance? Are they violating the dress code?" Thomas hesitated. "Not exactly. It's more about what they're wearing." Jessica sighed. She had dealt with entitled guests, unruly behavior, and even a rogue peacock once, but this sounded different. She gestured for Thomas to follow her as she made her way to the elevators. "Let's handle this." As the elevator ascended to the top floor, Jessica prepared herself for what lay ahead. She knew the stakes were high. The executive lounge catered to VIP guests, and any hint of mismanagement could tarnish the hotel's impeccable reputation. When the elevator doors opened, a palpable tension filled the air. Guests stood in small clusters, whispering among themselves and casting uneasy glances toward a man seated by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jessica's gaze followed theirs, and her heart skipped a beat. There he was, casually dressed in jeans, a dark jacket, and a bright red cap emblazoned with the words, "Make America Great Again." The hat's vibrant colors seemed to defy the muted elegance of the lounge, drawing attention like a spotlight. Jessica recognized the man instantly. Elon Musk, one of the most influential figures of their time. Before Jessica could approach, a well-dressed woman intercepted her, her expression a mix of indignation and exasperation. "Finally, someone in charge," the woman said, her voice sharp. "This is unacceptable. I come here to relax, not to be subjected to political propaganda." Jessica nodded, her professional demeanor unwavering. "I understand your concerns, ma'am. Please give me a moment to address the situation." The woman wasn't done. "You should know that my company books dozens of rooms here every quarter. If this isn't resolved, we'll take our business elsewhere." Jessica offered a polite smile. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll handle it immediately." As Jessica approached Elon's table, she felt the weight of dozens of eyes following her. Elon looked up from his laptop, his expression calm but piercing. "Good evening, Mr. Musk," Jessica began, her tone measured. "I'm Jessica Martinez, the front desk manager. I hate to disturb you, but I need to discuss a matter with you." He raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "Go on." "Several guests have expressed discomfort regarding your choice of headwear. While we don't have a specific dress code for the lounge, our policy is to maintain an environment that feels welcoming to all patrons." Elon leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving hers. "Are you suggesting that my hat is unwelcome here?" Jessica hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I'm suggesting that it's causing tension among our guests. I'd like to offer you a more private space where you can work undisturbed." A small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth, but it wasn't one of amusement. "Let me get this straight. You're asking me to move because other people are uncomfortable with my hat. Does that align with your policy of inclusivity?" Jessica felt a flush of heat rise to her cheeks. "Our priority is to ensure the comfort of all our guests. I believe this solution achieves that." "And if I refuse?" he asked, his tone even. Jessica took a deep breath. "If you refuse, I'll have no choice but to ask you to leave the lounge." Elon studied her for a moment, then began gathering his belongings. "Interesting choice, Miss Martinez," he said as he stood. "I'll remember this." As he walked toward the elevator, the lounge erupted into murmurs. Some guests looked relieved, while others seemed uneasy. Jessica maintained her professional composure, but a knot of doubt tightened in her stomach. She had no idea that this moment would soon spiral into something far beyond her control. The rest of Jessica's shift passed in a blur, but the unease lingered. She replayed the interaction in her mind, questioning her choices. Had she made the right call? Could she have handled it differently? Her years of experience told her she'd done what was necessary to maintain order, but something about Elon's parting words unsettled her. When her shift ended, Jessica returned to her modest apartment and sank into her couch. She opened her phone to unwind, but her notifications were flooded with messages. Thomas had sent her a link with a simple message: "You need to see this." Jessica clicked the link, and her heart sank. A video of her conversation with Elon Musk in the lounge was trending on multiple platforms. It was only a minute long, but it captured the most critical moments. Jessica asking Elon to leave, his calm rebuttal, and his ominous departure. The hashtags were relentless. #Elon Grand Plaza, #Hotelgate, #Mega Incident. Thousands of comments poured in. Kicked out for wearing a hat? Ridiculous. Finally, someone holding billionaires accountable. The manager did her job. People need to stop being so sensitive. Never staying at Grand Plaza again. Jessica scrolled through the comments with a sinking feeling. Opinions were starkly divided, and the hotel was at the center of a raging online debate. Her chest tightened as she saw her face plastered across news articles and memes. She wasn't just the manager in charge that night. She was now the face of the controversy. By morning, the situation had escalated. Jessica arrived at work to find protesters outside the hotel, some holding signs that read, "Free expression for all," while others demanded, "No politics in public spaces." News vans lined the street, and reporters jostled for footage. Inside the hotel, the atmosphere was grim. Security guards were stationed at every entrance, and the staff moved hurriedly, avoiding eye contact with one another. Jessica slipped in through the employee entrance and made her way to the conference room for an emergency meeting. Charles Winston, the general manager, presided over the meeting. His usually confident demeanor was replaced with visible strain. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice tight, "we are facing a PR crisis of unprecedented proportions." Jessica sat silently as Charles outlined the fallout. Bookings were being canceled. Corporate clients were reevaluating their partnerships. The hotel's social media pages were inundated with criticism. "And now," Charles continued, his voice dropping, "we have another complication. Mr. Musk owns a significant stake in our parent company, 30% to be exact." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Jessica felt the blood drain from her face. She had effectively asked one of the hotel's owners to leave his own lounge. Charles turned his attention to her. "Jessica, Mr. Musk has called for an emergency board meeting this afternoon. He's specifically requested your presence." Jessica's stomach churned. The idea of facing Elon Musk again, this time in a room full of executives, was daunting. She barely had time to prepare before she was ushered into the boardroom. Elon sat at the head of the table, his presence commanding. The board members flanked him, their expressions a mixture of unease and curiosity. Miss Martinez, Elon began, his tone calm but firm. Do you understand the gravity of the situation? Yes, sir, Jessica replied, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Elon leaned forward, his gaze sharp. I wore that hat as a test to see how this establishment handles difficult situations. Unfortunately, the hotel failed. Jessica swallowed hard. I made a judgment call to address the concerns of our guests. My intention was to maintain harmony. Harmony, Elon repeated, his tone contemplative. And in your pursuit of harmony, you compromise the principles of inclusivity and individual rights. Do you see the contradiction? Jessica nodded slowly. I do, now. I let the immediate pressure cloud my judgment. The board members shifted uncomfortably, but Elon remained focused on Jessica. Most people would try to defend their actions. You're acknowledging your mistake. That's rare. He paused, then continued. I'm offering you two choices. You can resign with severance and a clean reference, or you can undergo a rigorous training program to address these issues head-on. If you succeed, you'll not only keep your position, but help lead our company-wide training initiative. Jessica hesitated. The safe option was tempting, but she knew she couldn't walk away from this. I choose the training program, sir. Elon's expression softened slightly. Good, but be warned, it won't be easy. The next morning, Jessica's training began. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The program was a comprehensive deep dive into ethics, conflict resolution, constitutional rights, and customer service. Each day started at 6 a.m. with lectures led by industry experts and legal scholars, followed by practical exercises designed to replicate real-world scenarios. Jessica was put through the ringer. In one session, she was asked to role-play as a hotel guest demanding special treatment, while a group of trainees acted as staff. The experience forced her to see things from a different perspective, one where individual preferences and rights clashed with group expectations. It wasn't just challenging, it was humbling. The intensity didn't end there. Every evening, she was assigned case studies of similar incidents from other businesses. She analyzed what went wrong, what went right, and how those lessons could be applied to Grand Plaza's policies. Each report was scrutinized by a panel of trainers who pushed her to think critically and defend her conclusions. But it wasn't just the training that weighed on Jessica. The fallout from the incident continued to escalate. Protesters outside the hotel grew louder, and social media debates raged on. Grand Plaza's stock price had dropped further, and rumors swirled that several major corporate clients were considering terminating their contracts. Jessica's resolve was tested when a particularly heated protest broke out one evening. As she left the hotel after a long day of training, a reporter thrust a microphone in her face. Miss Martinez, do you regret asking Elon Musk to leave the lounge? They asked. Jessica paused, feeling the eyes of the crowd on her. She took a deep breath. I regret not handling the situation better. I'm learning from my mistakes, and I'm committed to ensuring nothing like this happens again. Her answer was met with mixed reactions. Some applauded her honesty, while others accused her of evading responsibility. But Jessica knew she couldn't control public opinion. All she could do was focus on becoming better. 1 month into the program, Jessica faced her first real test. A guest in the lobby was wearing a t-shirt with a provocative political slogan. Several other patrons began complaining, claiming the shirt was offensive and demanding the hotel take action. Jessica felt the familiar tension rising. She approached the situation differently this time. Instead of reacting to the complaints immediately, she took a moment to review the hotel's policies. When she spoke to the guest, her tone was calm and respectful. Sir, I understand that your shirt has caused some discomfort among other guests. However, our policy prohibits disruptive behavior, not personal expression. If you're not engaging in disruptive actions, you're welcome to stay. The guest nodded, appreciative of her professionalism. Jessica then addressed the complainants, explaining the hotel's stance and offering accommodations to anyone who wished to relocate. While not everyone was satisfied, The situation de-escalated without further incident. Later that evening, she received an email from Elon Musk. "Well handled. Keep going." Those simple words gave Jessica a renewed sense of purpose. She began to see the incident not as a failure, but as an opportunity to grow and help others do the same. Jessica's confidence grew with each passing week. She no longer viewed the training as a punishment, but as a chance to rebuild her professional foundation. By the end of the second month, she wasn't just participating in the training sessions, she was excelling in them. Her trainers noticed her growth. One day, during a debriefing, her lead instructor, Dr. Angela Ford, praised her progress. "Jessica, you've turned what could have been a career-ending moment into a learning experience. That's rare, but the real challenge will be applying these lessons consistently." Dr. Ford's words stayed with Jessica. She knew her ultimate test was yet to come. 3 months after the incident, Grand Plaza introduced Jessica's revamped training program to a select group of staff members from other locations. Jessica took on a leadership role, helping to design the curriculum and lead discussions. Her approach was practical and empathetic, combining her first-hand experience with the theoretical knowledge she had gained. One session stood out in particular. Jessica presented a case study based on her own experience in the executive lounge, omitting her name to encourage unbiased feedback. The group dissected the situation, offering insights and alternative approaches. When the discussion ended, Jessica revealed that she had been the manager in the scenario. The room fell silent, and she could feel the weight of their stares. "I made mistakes that night," she admitted, "but mistakes are opportunities to grow. What matters isn't that we stumble, it's how we pick ourselves up." Her honesty resonated with the trainees. Several approached her afterward to thank her for sharing her story. One, a young manager named Rosa, confided, "I've been afraid of making mistakes ever since I started, but hearing your story gives me hope that I can recover if I do." Jessica realized that her vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. By acknowledging her flaws, she could inspire others to embrace their own growth. Outside the training room, the hotel was beginning to recover. The protests had died down, and public opinion was slowly shifting. Many were impressed by Grand Plaza's commitment to addressing the controversy transparently. Media outlets covered the training program, highlighting its innovative approach to balancing individual rights with hospitality standards. Elon Musk's occasional emails continued to serve as a barometer of her progress. They were brief, but impactful. "Your session with Rosa was excellent. Keep leading by example. I've noticed bookings are climbing again. Your efforts are paying off." Jessica's determination only deepened. She began designing new modules for the training program, focusing on real-world scenarios that explored the gray areas of decision-making. She worked late into the night, fueled by a vision of creating a culture where staff felt empowered to make principled choices under pressure. Jessica's next milestone came in the form of a high-profile pilot program. The Grand Plaza leadership decided to roll out her training initiative at 3 of their largest properties. If successful, it would serve as a model for all hotels in the chain. Jessica was both excited and nervous. The stakes were high, not just for her career, but for the reputation of the entire company. She traveled to New York, Chicago, and Miami to oversee the implementation. Each location brought its unique challenges. In New York, she dealt with staff skepticism. Many employees doubted the necessity of a program centered around controversy management. "Why do we need this?" one manager asked during a session. "Isn't it enough to follow the rules?" Jessica responded with a question of her own. What do you do when the rules don't clearly apply? What if 2 guests are equally justified in their complaints? The decisions we make in those moments define our reputation. Her answer sparked a lively discussion, and by the end of the session, many participants admitted they hadn't considered the nuances of such situations before. In Chicago, the challenge was cultural. The staff was diverse, with employees from various backgrounds and perspectives. Jessica adapted her approach, incorporating examples that resonated with their unique experiences. She facilitated conversations about implicit bias and how to navigate sensitive interactions. By the time she reached Miami, Jessica felt more confident. The staff there welcomed the training, eager to learn from her insights. One employee, a bellhop named Carlos, pulled her aside after a session. "I saw the video of you and Elon Musk," he said. "At first, I thought, wow, she must have been so embarrassed. But now, I see you turned it into something incredible. It's inspiring." His words stayed with Jessica. She realized her story wasn't just about recovery, it was about resilience. When Jessica returned to San Francisco, the feedback from the pilot program was overwhelmingly positive. Guest complaints had decreased, and staff reported feeling more equipped to handle difficult situations. Even the corporate office noted an uptick in customer satisfaction ratings at the pilot locations. Elon Musk, true to his enigmatic nature, kept his distance during this phase. But one day, she received a message from his office summoning her to another board meeting. Jessica couldn't help but wonder what was next. The meeting was held in the same grand conference room where Jessica had faced her moment of reckoning months earlier. This time, the atmosphere was different. There was a sense of anticipation rather than tension. Elon opened the meeting with his usual directness. "The results of the pilot program are impressive. Jessica, you've exceeded expectations." A murmur of approval ran through the boardroom. Jessica felt a surge of pride but kept her expression neutral. Elon continued. "However, I believe there's more potential here. I'm proposing we expand this training initiative beyond hotels, airlines, retail chains, restaurants, any industry where customer service intersects with diverse perspectives." Jessica's heart raced. The opportunity was enormous, but so was the responsibility. "You'll lead the expansion," Elon said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "This is your program, and you're the best person to take it to the next level." Jessica nodded, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." Jessica dove headfirst into her new role. Expanding the training program beyond hotels presented unique challenges. Every industry had its own culture, its own set of expectations, and its own conflicts. Jessica and her team worked tirelessly to adapt the program's core principles, empathy, neutrality, and decisive action, to these diverse environments. Her first major project was with Sky Horizon Airlines, a major carrier known for its luxurious first-class service, but also for public relations disasters when dealing with passenger disputes. Jessica began with an intensive 3-week assessment of their operations, shadowing flight attendants, customer service representatives, and even pilots. During a training session with the airline staff, Jessica posed a question. What do you do when a first-class passenger demands something that violates the airline's policies and their refusal causes a scene? A flight attendant raised her hand. "We try to de-escalate, but sometimes it feels like no matter what we do, someone's unhappy." Jessica nodded. De-escalation is key, but it starts with understanding the root of the conflict. People want to feel heard, even when we can't give them what they want. It's about making them feel respected in how we say no. Her practical advice resonated with the staff. By the end of her time with Sky Horizon, complaints about passenger interactions had dropped by 20%. The airline's CEO personally thanked Jessica, calling the program a game changer for the industry. Meanwhile, Jessica's success continued to draw media attention. Business publications hailed her as a pioneer in corporate training, and her story was featured in profiles that highlighted her transformation from controversial manager to industry trailblazer. But not everyone was supportive. Jessica received occasional backlash, particularly from those who felt she had overreacted during the original incident with Elon Musk. Some accused her of selling out or overcomplicating hospitality with unnecessary training. Jessica remained unfazed. "Criticism is inevitable when you're trying to make real change," she told her team. "What matters is that we stay true to our mission." Her efforts began to pay off in tangible ways. The Grand Plaza's reputation rebounded, and bookings reached record highs. Corporate clients who had initially distanced themselves returned, impressed by the hotel chain's commitment to improvement. Other industries took notice, and requests for consultations poured in. 3 months into her new role, Jessica faced a pivotal moment. During a high-profile conference on corporate ethics, Elon Musk invited her to join him on stage for a keynote discussion. The topic: Crisis as a Catalyst for Innovation. Jessica felt a mixture of nerves and excitement as she took her seat beside Elon. The auditorium was packed with leaders from various industries, all eager to hear their insights. Elon began by recounting the Grand Plaza incident, framing it as a case study in resilience and adaptability. "What impressed me most," he said, turning to Jessica, "was how she didn't just recover from the incident. She used it to create something transformative." Jessica took the microphone, her voice steady. "In the heat of the moment, I made a decision that I thought was right, but hindsight showed me the complexities I had overlooked. That experience taught me the importance of balancing individual rights with the collective good." She shared the key lessons from her journey, emphasizing the power of vulnerability and the willingness to admit mistakes. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, who erupted in applause at the end of the session. Following the keynote, Jessica's professional trajectory soared. The conference marked her official transition from a hotel manager to a respected thought leader in corporate training and ethics. Requests for collaborations poured in from industries Jessica had never imagined working with: tech companies, retail giants, and even universities. Elon Musk, ever enigmatic, seemed to fade into the background after the conference, though his presence was always felt. His occasional emails served as reminders of his continued support. "Your session on conflict resolution at Sky Horizon set a new standard. Keep disrupting the status quo. I noticed your interview in Business Weekly. Don't let the praise make you complacent. Keep innovating." Jessica took his words to heart. She began pushing the boundaries of the training program, incorporating elements of psychology, sociology, and even philosophy. Her goal was no longer just to prevent conflicts, but to inspire employees to see their roles as opportunities to make meaningful connections. One of the most challenging projects came when a global retail chain reached out for help. They were dealing with a string of viral incidents where customers had clashed with employees over mask mandates and other policies. Jessica saw this as a chance to apply her methods in a highly visible way. She traveled to the chain's headquarters and met with their leadership team. "We can't control what customers do," she told them during the initial briefing, "but we can control how we respond. That's where your power lies." The training sessions she conducted were unlike anything the staff had experienced. Jessica used role-playing exercises to simulate high-stress scenarios, pushing employees to think on their feet. She also introduced mindfulness techniques to help them stay calm under pressure. During one session, a young cashier named Olivia shared her story. "I had a customer scream at me last week because I reminded them about our mask policy," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't know how to respond without making it worse." Jessica guided Olivia through a response strategy, emphasizing empathy and de-escalation. "The goal isn't to win the argument," she explained. "It's to diffuse the tension so both parties can leave with their dignity intact." The impact was immediate. Employees reported feeling more confident in handling difficult interactions, and customer complaints dropped significantly. The retail chain publicly praised Jessica's program, crediting it with improving morale and restoring customer trust. As Jessica's influence grew, so did the complexity of her work. She was often invited to speak at events, where she shared insights about the delicate balance between maintaining policies and respecting individual freedoms. Her speeches were filled with personal anecdotes, practical advice, and a touch of humor that endeared her to audiences. During one such event, a reporter asked her, "Do you ever regret what happened that night at the Grand Plaza?" Jessica paused, considering the question. "Regret is a tricky thing," she replied. "If I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't be standing here today. So, no, I don't regret it, but I do carry it with me as a reminder of how much I still have to learn." Her candidness resonated with people, earning her respect as someone who didn't shy away from her flaws. It also inspired countless others to view their own setbacks as opportunities for growth. As Jessica's reputation grew, she began to notice a shift in how people treated her. Once hesitant to take advice from an ex-hotel manager, CEOs and industry leaders now sought her guidance eagerly. But this new level of influence came with challenges of its own. Jessica found herself under intense scrutiny, her every decision dissected by both supporters and skeptics. Her biggest challenge yet came when a major sports franchise approached her. The team had been embroiled in a scandal involving a player who refused to stand during the national anthem, sparking outrage among fans and igniting a national debate. The franchise wanted Jessica to design a program to help their staff navigate the fallout. Jessica hesitated. The issue was deeply polarizing, and any misstep could tarnish her growing reputation. But she also saw an opportunity to demonstrate the power of her approach in one of the most high-stakes environments imaginable. During her initial meetings with the team's management, Jessica emphasized the importance of listening. Before we can address public perception, we need to understand the perspectives within your organization, she said. Over the next few weeks, Jessica facilitated candid conversations among players, staff, and executives. She created a safe space for people to share their views, even when they disagreed. It wasn't easy, emotions often ran high, but Jessica's calm demeanor and neutral stance helped guide the discussions toward productive outcomes. One breakthrough moment came during a meeting between the player at the center of the controversy and the team's owner, who had publicly criticized him. Jessica mediated the conversation, encouraging both men to articulate their feelings without resorting to blame. By the end of the session, the player and the owner had reached an understanding. While they didn't see eye to eye, they agreed on a path forward that respected both the player's rights and the team's values. When the franchise announced the new measures, developed with Jessica's guidance, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Fans and media praised the team for addressing the issue thoughtfully, and the controversy began to fade. Jessica's success with the sports franchise cemented her status as a leader in crisis management. But with every success came new pressures. She often worked 14-hour days, traveling constantly and juggling multiple high-profile projects. The demands of her role began to take a toll on her personal life. One evening, after wrapping up a particularly grueling day, Jessica received a call from her mother. "You've been so busy lately," her mother said, her voice tinged with concern. "When was the last time you took a break?" Jessica hesitated. She couldn't remember. Between her work commitments and the constant media attention, she rarely had time to reflect, let alone relax. "You can't pour from an empty cup," her mother continued gently. "Take care of yourself, Jessica." The words struck a chord. Jessica realized she had been so focused on helping others that she had neglected her own well-being. That weekend, she canceled her meetings and spent 2 days at a quiet retreat, away from the noise of her professional life. The break proved transformative. Jessica returned to work with renewed energy and a clearer sense of purpose. She also began setting boundaries, carving out time for herself and the people she cared about. As the months passed, Jessica's program continued to evolve. She introduced advanced modules that explored the psychological underpinnings of conflict, drawing on insights from neuroscience and behavioral economics. She also began collaborating with academic institutions to study the long-term impact of her training methods. One of her most rewarding moments came when a young manager named Rosa, whom Jessica had mentored during the early days of the program, was promoted to a leadership position. Rosa reached out to thank Jessica personally. "You didn't just teach me how to handle conflicts," Rosa said. "You showed me how to believe in myself." Jessica smiled, touched by the sentiment. "That's the real goal," she replied, "to empower people to make a difference." Jessica's work continued to gain traction, and her reputation as a crisis management expert reached new heights. But with every milestone, she faced new challenges that tested her resolve and pushed her boundaries. One such challenge came from an unexpected quarter, a tech startup known for its disruptive approach to traditional industries. The CEO, a brash young entrepreneur named Lucas Hayes, approached Jessica with a problem. His company had recently implemented a controversial policy requiring employees to disclose their political affiliations as part of a transparency initiative. The backlash had been swift and severe, with critics accusing the company of fostering division. Lucas was unapologetic. "We're innovators," he told Jessica during their first meeting. "We're not afraid to take risks, but the media just doesn't get it." Jessica suppressed a sigh. Lucas's arrogance reminded her of the guests who believed their money exempted them from the rules, but she also saw an opportunity to teach him and his company a valuable lesson. She began by conducting focus groups with employees. Many expressed frustration, not just with the policy itself, but with how it was rolled out. "We weren't consulted," one employee said. "They just told us, this is the new way." It felt like they didn't care about our opinions. Jessica presented her findings to Lucas and his leadership team. "Your employees aren't upset about transparency," she explained. "They're upset about how the decision was made. People want to feel heard, especially when it comes to something as personal as their beliefs." Lucas frowned, clearly unused to criticism. "So, what's your solution?" Jessica proposed a series of changes, starting with a listening tour where executives would meet with employees to gather feedback. She also recommended replacing the mandatory disclosure policy with voluntary forums where employees could discuss their values in a safe, respectful environment. At first, Lucas was skeptical. "You really think people will open up if it's voluntary?" Jessica nodded. "People open up when they trust the process. Earn that trust and you'll see results." The company implemented Jessica's suggestions, and the impact was immediate. Employee morale improved and the media narrative began to shift. Articles once critical of the startup now highlighted its efforts to foster meaningful dialogue. For Jessica, the experience reinforced a key principle. Even the most disruptive companies needed to prioritize empathy and collaboration to succeed. Jessica's work with the tech startup was a turning point. It demonstrated the adaptability of her methods and cemented her as a sought-after consultant, but it also reminded her of the importance of humility, both her own and that of her clients. As she reflected on her journey, Jessica began to see patterns in the conflicts she had mediated. Whether in hotels, airlines, or tech companies, the root issues often boiled down to the same themes: miscommunication, unchecked assumptions, and a failure to see others' perspectives. Determined to share these insights more broadly, Jessica began writing a book. Titled "Bridging the Divide: Lessons from the Front Lines of Conflict Management." It combined her personal experiences with practical advice for navigating difficult situations. She poured her heart into the project, drawing on every lesson she had learned since that fateful night at the Grand Plaza. The writing process was cathartic. For the first time, Jessica revisited the early days of her career, reflecting on the moments that had shaped her. She wrote about her initial fear of failure, her struggles with self-doubt, and the mentors who had guided her along the way. The book was released to critical acclaim, with readers praising its blend of storytelling and actionable insights. It became a bestseller, earning Jessica invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and even government forums. 1 year after the book's release, Jessica stood on a stage in front of a packed auditorium. The occasion was a prestigious leadership summit, and Jessica had been invited to deliver the keynote address. As she looked out at the audience, she felt a surge of gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. She began her speech with a reflection on the Grand Plaza incident. "When I asked Elon Musk to leave the executive lounge, I thought I was protecting our guests. But in truth, I was reacting out of fear. Fear of making the wrong decision, fear of losing control. That fear clouded my judgment." The audience listened intently as Jessica recounted the lessons she had learned since that night. She spoke about the importance of vulnerability, the courage to admit mistakes, and the power of empathy in resolving conflicts. Her speech concluded with a call to action. "We live in a world that often feels divided, where disagreements can quickly turn into battles. But every conflict is an opportunity to build a bridge, to listen, to learn, and to find common ground. It's not easy, but it's worth it. The auditorium erupted into applause. As Jessica stepped off the stage, she was greeted by Elon Musk, who had been sitting in the front row. He extended a hand, his trademark smirk softening into a genuine smile. "Not bad," he said, his tone teasing. "You've come a long way, Miss Martinez." Jessica smiled back. "Thanks to you, sir." Jessica's journey came full circle as she stepped into her new role as the Global Director of Training and Cultural Development for a newly formed consultancy arm under the Grand Plaza brand. The initiative aimed to provide conflict management and ethical training across industries worldwide. It was a culmination of years of trial, error, and unwavering perseverance. Her first task in this new role was bold and symbolic: hosting a training seminar at the Grand Plaza Hotel, the very place where her journey had begun. The event was attended by leaders from various sectors, eager to learn from Jessica's expertise. Among them was Elon Musk, whose influence had been pivotal in shaping her career. Jessica started the seminar with a visual aid, a large, framed photograph of the executive lounge. "This is where it all began," she said, gesturing to the image. "One decision, made under pressure, sparked a chain of events that transformed not just my career, but my perspective on leadership and human connection." The room was silent as she recounted the infamous incident with Elon, now stripped of its drama and told with the wisdom of hindsight. Jessica focused not on the controversy but on the lessons learned, the importance of balancing individual rights with communal harmony, of prioritizing principles over panic. She broke the seminar into interactive segments, encouraging attendees to share their own challenges. The room buzzed with energy as participants exchanged ideas, debated approaches, and reflected on their own biases. Jessica's leadership was evident, not as someone dictating solutions, but as a facilitator of meaningful dialogue. As the seminar concluded, Jessica invited Elon to join her on stage. He wore a knowing smile, the MAGA hat conspicuously absent. "Jessica's story is a reminder," he said, addressing the crowd, "that the best leaders are those who are willing to learn from their mistakes. Her journey is proof that no crisis is insurmountable if you approach it with integrity and humility." The audience erupted in applause, and Jessica felt a wave of emotion. For years, she had viewed the Grand Plaza incident as a moment of failure. Now, standing on that stage, she saw it for what it truly was: a catalyst for growth. In the months that followed, Jessica's program expanded to over 200 organizations across 5 continents. From luxury resorts in Bali to tech hubs in Silicon Valley, her methods were adopted and adapted to fit diverse contexts. She worked tirelessly, but she also maintained the balance she had learned to prioritize, spending more time with her family and carving out moments of quiet reflection. Her personal growth paralleled her professional success. Jessica began mentoring young professionals, sharing not just her knowledge but also her vulnerabilities. "Leadership isn't about having all the answers," she often told her mentees. "It's about asking the right questions and being willing to learn." One of her proudest moments came during a visit to a Grand Plaza property in Singapore. There, she met an employee who had completed her training program and was now leading conflict resolution workshops for her colleagues. "I used to be afraid of making mistakes," the employee told Jessica. "But your story taught me that mistakes can lead to the greatest opportunities. Thank you for showing me what's possible." As the second anniversary of the Grand Plaza incident approached, Jessica received an unexpected invitation. Elon Musk was hosting a private dinner to celebrate the success of the training initiative, and he wanted Jessica to be the guest of honor. The dinner was held in the same executive lounge where it had all begun. As Jessica entered the room, memories flooded back: the tension, the whispers, the weight of that fateful decision. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The room was filled with warmth and camaraderie, a testament to how far they had come. During the dinner, Elon raised a glass. To Jessica Martinez, he said, his voice carrying over the clinking of glasses, for turning a single moment of conflict into a global movement. Your work has changed industries, but more importantly, it's changed lives. Jessica smiled, raising her own glass. To everyone who believed in second chances, she said, and to the power of growth, even in the face of adversity. In the years that followed, Jessica's legacy continued to grow. She became a sought-after speaker, an author of multiple best-selling books, and a trusted advisor to leaders across the globe. But she never lost sight of the lesson that had started it all. Every challenge carries the potential for transformation. In her office, Jessica kept a framed memento, a simple red MAGA hat, carefully preserved behind glass. It wasn't a political statement. It was a reminder of the moment that had changed her life, and of the truth she carried with her always. Life's biggest tests don't come with warning labels. They come with choices. And it's those choices that define not just who we are, but who we can become.